Hi friends, today we are going to see the past year NEET questions for the chapter Organisms and Populations. Today in this video we will cover part 3. So earlier we have completed 2 parts, so kindly have a go through. Now let's begin with the first question here. Soil particles determine its dash. So this question was asked in the year 1992. Okay, so what do they determine actually? Will they determine the field capacity or will they determine the texture? See, as soon as you see a soil particle, you cannot analyze the water holding capacity or the field capacity and all that, because there you have to do some internal screening. But as soon as you see a soil particle, the size, okay, you can see the size of it, whether it's large gravels or large stones or is it fine, that will actually determine the texture. Soil particle size defines the texture. The mineral particles present in the soil vary enormously in size. The fine fragments consisting of sand, silt, then you have clay particles, sometimes you'll have gravel, stones, everything. The relative proportion of the sand, silt and clay in a soil is referred to as soil texture. Now water holding capacity, rest of the features, if you see, you have to do a little more research on it in order to identify all these aspects. Therefore, the right answer to this question is option A. So that is what they are telling here. Water holding capacity, larger soil particles like sand, gravel will have large pores. These will have less water holding capacity. More the soil is fine, the more it can hold on to the water. Therefore, the right answer is option A. Next question here. Homeostasis is dash. What is homeostasis? It is a property of an open system, especially when it comes to living organisms. It regulates its internal environment to maintain a stable, constant condition by means of multiple dynamic equilibrium adjustments, and that will be controlled by the interrelated regulation mechanism. So it is a tendency of the biological systems to resist the change, and that is termed as homeostasis. Therefore, the right answer is option B. Okay, next question here. Deep black soil is productive due to the high proportion of dash. Okay, now talk about the black soil. We all know, I mean, the color of it gives the name the black soil, but what are the other things that you can talk about black soil? See, black soil, okay, it is black colored and it is also called as, okay, it is also called as, I'm sorry, I'll write it down here, Hernozem. Okay, it is a black colored soil containing high percentage of humus and high percentage of phosphoric acid, phosphorus, ammonia, and this is a very fertile soil and it can produce high agricultural yields with high moisture storage capacity. So I've almost given you the clue what the answer is. Yes, it has a lot of clay and humus. As you know, clay humus will prevent the water loss. What does it do? It prevents the water loss, so which becomes a boon for the plants to survive. Therefore, the right answer to this question is option C. Okay, next question here. Artificial selection to obtain cows yielding higher milk output represents dash. Okay, we have to analyze the options here. Directional, as it pushes the mean of the character in one direction. Disruptive, as it splits the population in two or one yielding. So what does artificial selection do? Artificial selection is to obtain cows yielding higher milk output, will shift the peak to one direction to another direction. So this will represent as an example of directional selection. So what is it actually? It is a directional selection. Therefore, the right answer is option A. While if you take the rest, the disruptive or stabilizing selection and all that, the organism with the mean value of the trait are selected, while in disruptive both extremes get selected. So directional, you go only for the cows that yield high milk output. Therefore, the right answer is option A. Okay, next question here. Select the mismatch. We have to match and see. Rhodospirillum is a mycorrhiza. Is it a mycorrhiza? No, it's actually a nitrogen fixer. Okay, Anabina, nitrogen fixer, that is right. Nizobium is Alepha, right. Frankia alnis is right. See, raudospiralism is a facultative anaerobe and it's a free-living nitrogen fixer. So when I say mycorrhiza, they are symbionts. Right, symbionts. Therefore, this will not be the answer. The mismatch is option A. Rhodospilium is a free nitrogen fixer, free living nitrogen fixer. Therefore, the right answer, which one is the mismatch here, is option A. Next question here. Mycorrhiza is an example of dash. This is a very easy question for you to answer. The other name for symbiotic relationship is called as mutualism. What is it called as? Mutualism. Therefore, mycorrhiza, as I already said, they live in a mutualistic relationship, that they don't hurt each other, but they live in an association where both get benefited. Therefore, the other name for symbiosis is mutualism. Therefore, the right answer to this question is option C. Okay, so the association will predominantly be between a bacteria and a fungi. Okay, right. Sometimes it is between the fungi and the roots of the plant. It can be an association, a lichen, an algae and a fungi. All that is example of symbiotic relationship. Okay, next question here. Gauss' principle of competitive exclusion states dash. What is this principle actually? I will tell you. This is a principle of competitive exclusion, and it can be restated to say that no two species can occupy the same niche. So what are they saying? No two species can occupy the same niche, that is the same habitat, indefinitely when resources are limiting. Yes, when you have two cats there and when you have only 1 cup of milk, what happens? It only becomes a fight. Either you have to share, but the animals will not be prevalent to share and eat. Certainly species can or do coexist while competing for one another resources. Nevertheless, this theory will predict that when two species coexist in long-term basis, so when they happen to be there together on long-term basis, what will happen? Either resources will go limited, or their niche will always differ in one or more features. Otherwise, the species will outcompete the other, and the extinction of the second species will inevitably result. So, the animals will not have the capacity to think and react. When the resources become limiting, either they start sharing, and once they start sharing, the resources again becoming limited. Either the one which is dominant will kill the second one, or it might lead to the animal to move to a different niche. So this is what this theory states. Therefore, the right answer is option C. No two species can occupy the same niche indefinitely for the same limiting resources. Okay, this is what does the Gauss principle theory state. Next question here. When does the growth rate of the population following a logistic model equal 0? And the logistic model is given as dn by dt is equal to rn. This we already saw for a population growth, right? Now, this is a equation here, and you know n represents population, r represents the natural increase. It's also called as the carrying, k is also called as the carrying capacity, t is the time and all that. Now, when will this be equal to 0? If you see, when n by k is exactly 1. Okay, so you can see here, when n by k is exactly 1, then it will be equal to 0. Therefore, the right answer is option A. When n by k is exactly 1. What does n represent? The population. What does k represent? It's the carrying capacity. Okay, next question here. In which one of the following interactions both partners are adversely affected? Okay, so we will discuss one by one. Predation is where one will be benefited, one will be harmed. Mutualism, both are benefited. Parasitism is also where one will be benefited and one will be affected. Competition, where both will be affected, because it's a competing factor. When somebody happens to fight, both of them get hurt, right? So in which of the following interactions both the partners are adversely affected? It is in competition. A good example in our day-to-day life, in siblings, between siblings, when both fight for the same product or same book or something, some kind of object, they both get affected. one gets hurt, both of them get hurt because we hit each other, right? The same thing can be seen here. Therefore, the right answer is option D, competition. Next question here. The following graph depicts the changes in the two populations A and B of herbivores in a grassy field. Okay, grassy field A. Possible reason for the change is that dash. So here, they've given you A. It's the possible reason for the changes. So what is B? Population B competed more successfully for the food than the population A. So here, A is actually declining while B is actually high. So what does it show? The given graph illustrates that population B got success over the grassy field while A has failed. B has succeeded. Now you understand? Because A, the growth of it is down. The graph is plotting down, while for B it is high. Therefore, the right answer is option A. Population B competed more successfully for the food when compared to the population A. Next question here. A sedentary sea anemone gets attached to the shell lining of hermit crab. The association is, what do you call it as? See, you must have seen the ticks, right? The ticks which are seen on the animals like cows or dogs, they have ticks on them. So what do these ticks do? What do these ticks do? They eat the insects which is present on their body. So the tick is benefited, but if the horse or the cow being benefited? Here both are benefited because the cow will get rid of the insects and the ticks will have insects to eat. Now this situation here, a sedentary sea anemone gets attached to the shell lining the hermit crab. This is where the crab is neither benefited nor harmed, but one is benefited. So that association is called as commensalism. One is benefited, the other remains benefited, or it is not harmed. It remains as such. That association in science, you call it as commensalism. Okay? Next question here. A biologist studied the population of rats in the barn. He found that the average natality was over 250, average mortality was 240, immigration was 20, and immigration was 30. So the net increase in the population is dash. So you have a formula for this. The net increase in population can be symbolized with natality plus immigration minus the mortality plus immigration. So when you add it, the answer will be 0. Okay, therefore the right answer to this question is option C, 0. Okay, next question here. So this is a formula that you need to remember when you have to calculate the net increase in population. Next question here. Casta is an example of dash. What is this casta? It is also called as dodder plant. What is it called as? Dodder plant. And it is a parasitic plant that wraps around other plants for nourishment. Casta is found on the outer side of the host, and it is a stem parasite. And mostly it is a parasite of Achaia. So what is it actually? Ectoparasitism, because ecto means outside, it is present outside. Endo means inside. So casta is actually a parasite, mostly prevalent in Achaia plants. So it's an ectoparasitism. Therefore, the right answer is option A. Next question here. What type of human population is represented by the following age pyramid? So the dark shaded ones are post-productive, reproductive, and pre-reproductive. The age of the pyramid represents the declining population of any organism. So it's slowly declining. Okay? Populations decline in the reduction over time in region census. It can be, so here if you see, when you talk about post-reductive, if you see it from other way around also it is deducting. If you see from this way also it is deducting. Okay, it can be caused by several reasons that include heavy immigration, diseases, famine, or other reasons can also be the answer. So what does this represent? If you see, it represents the declining population. So it's declining. If you see it the other way around, both are declining. Therefore, the right answer to this question is option C, declining population. Okay, so the graph clearly represents the post-reproductive, reproductive and pre-reproductive. Okay, I hope you understood. If you see the other way around, it's only declining. So it's representing the declining population. So with this, we complete the part 3 of organisms and population. Hope to meet you in the next part of the same chapter. Thank you.